It's okay.
Okay.
A little bit more, just to see.
Okay.
More people.
For more people. Yeah. I think in Portugal now it's time for siesta, yeah? Or not? Because okay, because when I work in Saudi Arabia, it was obligatory between 12 and 3. Okay. But I believe that, in the hot climate, it's a really good solution. Yeah. Just, yeah.
Here in Coimbra, we have this we call it the academic quarter.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned already.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so
Yes,
no
so-
problem.
I'm sorry, but I have
Students
switches.
are allowed to be a little bit later, but not teachers. So
Not only students,
okay,
teachers are also late.
No
the,
problem.
the academic quarter, everyone invokes the academic quarter
No
when
problem.
they are late. So just
Yeah,
a few more
yeah.
minutes and then we are
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to
sure.
start.
Oh, no, 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 no.
So we have been looking for your plátano, but our
Cool.
vivariums,
Yeah.
our vivariums,
Yeah.
don't have available plátanos
Yeah.
right now. So I'm just going to propose
Yeah.
something a little bit smaller, which we need for our ecosystem
Yeah.
right now
Yeah.
due
Yeah.
to
Okay.
bees, which
So,
is rosemary.
okay. How?
Rosemary.
Rosemary.
Sure. Yeah, something we even need to call the bees.
Yeah. So the platan tree I will plant on my, uh, in my house, close to my house.
Or maybe next time, next year,
Yeah.
when you come here. Lavender.
Wonderful. Yeah.
You approve it?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so tomorrow afternoon, between the two afternoon sessions,
Yeah.
we'll do just a 5 minute ceremony,
Okay,
and
okay.
you will help us to plant our lavender.
Okay.
Okay? You were going to ask something when I talked about the platinum.
Hmm?
No?
No.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Boa tarde e muito obrigado por estarem presentes e bem-vindos a mais uma sessão das Mini Talks do CIVG. Esta é a nossa primeira sessão deste novo ano letivo e hoje vamos ter connosco o professor Bernard Turek da Universidade de Varsóvia. So, I will now speak English for Professor Bernard to understand as well. So, as I was mentioning, we will have today Professor Bernard Turek from the Department of Large Animal Diseases in the Warsaw University of Life Sciences. and will present us with a presentation concerning his work. Professor Turek is a veterinary surgeon and it's a lecturer in this university. And now I will leave you with Professor Turek that kindly accepted the invitation to be here in our mini talks.
Okay. Thank you for introduction. Good afternoon. I don't know if I met already somebody of you yesterday. I'm the head of the surgery division, and I'm not only lecturer. I'm the surgeon, I'm the teacher, because we have classes, lectures with students, and I really like my clinical works. You know, I'm not a real scientist. The lecture which I'm going to present you, it's based on my clinical works. I'm really fascinated since the beginning of my work about fracture fixation. And I never was interested working, you know, in the lab, looking at the microscope or to perform ELISA tests and others. For me, you know, if I can see, I can touch the horse, I can see the problem. Here on the first slide, you can see the entrance to our new clinic. Yeah. So here is Centaur Huron, and here entrance to our new clinic. Will you allow me to sit, or I should stand? Thank you so much. The new clinic was opened in 2004. Before, we had a very historical place because it was just the beginning of the veterinary in Poland. It's a pity people responsible for that, they decided to sell it. Now you can go for a concert because they opened Sinfonia Varsovia. But okay, this is my private opinion, and I'm really fascinated by all, you know, those old things here. In the morning, I visited Coimbra University, and I was able to feel, you know, the spirit of history. So, and thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really happy to be here. So I will try to present as short as possible. I'm going to speak about, it's a really huge problem, complete fracture of the third metacarpal bones. Okay, I will come back for a moment, because most of the fractures, you know, the methods of treatment are solved. But I decided to concentrate on the really hopeless cases, the complete fracture of the third metacarpal bones. And most of such fractures will be contaminated, infected. So there are not so many options, you know, to treat such fractures. Okay, here you can see some examples like, you know, chip fractures. So nowadays we'll do the arthroscopy. Before it was necessary to do some arthroscopy. Okay, here you can see the condylar fracture, very nice fracture, maybe not for the horse, but for us, it's quite easy, you know, to treat. 1, 2, 3 screws, and 2-3 months later, we can get, you know, completely healed horse. Okay, the situation will be not so optimistic if it will be open fracture. And after that, we will get the infection. So, but for example, here, you can see complete multiple fracture. And probably it's hopeless case because it's so important to give the first support, to put the bandage, after that provide good transportation to the clinic. Because if you will leave such a patient for a longer time, there is nothing to do. Okay, here are some data from the literature. So look, diaphyseal fracture of the first metacarpal bone represents 23%, okay, of all fractures. Here we are seeing quite old data, but probably now the percentage is increasing because the methods which are offered are much better. We have new materials, we have better anesthesia. I remember at the beginning of my career, 1991, quite many horses were euthanized just at the beginning. Nowadays, I can see really huge improvement. Okay. For example, here you can see open, infected, already a fracture, because I was asked at the racing track in Warsaw to come there and to do the surgery. So my decision was at that time, sorry, I'm not able to help. Because try to imagine, they brought the horse to the clinic without applying any bandage. That's why tomorrow I will have a lecture for students about first aid and proper transportation of the horse, because it's paramount for achieving good results. So that one I had to euthanize, yeah? And some of the people, they will believe, let's do the surgery. No, there is nothing to do, because the vessels has been ruptured and it's already infected, because if 10, 12 hours passed, believe me, there will be many, many bacteria. Here, for example, we can see complete fracture, yeah, but as you can see, probably there is a bandage, it's nicely stabilized. So, if you will protect such a fracture properly, today fiberglass bandage is the best one. Transport to the clinic and you can start to think about doing the surgery. So remember, first aid and the proper transportation, it's really, really important. Okay, here you can see how we should put the bandage, because if you will have fracture of the first metacarpal bone, it means that two neighbor joints should be completely covered. So because the digit is a really short area, that's why we need to put the bandage. We need to cover also the hoof. And the proximal part as high as possible. So we need to reach the elbow joint. And what kind of options do we have in such fractures? So probably, you know, conservative treatment, some painkillers and bandage will be not sufficient, because horse is a very, very specific animal. They need to stay all the time. Only old horses, you know, they will sleep laying on the floor, but most of them, they are prepared to spend their life standing. Even immediately after general anesthesia, if the level of isoflurane will decrease, they like to stand up very quickly. That's why we need to control the recovery time. We need to sometimes keep them on the floor until they will be ready to keep the standing position after first trial. Because try to imagine, if, for example, I will decide to put the dynamic compression plates, usually in such cases, we need to put 2 plates, more than 30 implants. So probably there is a really high risk of destroying such a fixation. That's why recovery time is really, really important. The other system, like intramedullary implants or interlocking knee, they are not so good solution for this bone, but for the others we should consider. Okay, condylar fractures are really nice fracture, just 2-3 screws, that's all. And Today I will concentrate on external fixation, because look, if you will have complete fracture, but it's still closed fracture, there is no wound, it means that we can put some plates and implants, because there is no risk that will be contaminated, infected, and everything after the surgery we had to remove. So in complicated cases, in infected one, I think it can be the good solution, external stabilizer. Or we can use transfixation pin cast, or sometimes we can use different methods and we can mix them. Okay, here are some, pictures, some data presented by authors. They try to perform some tests, and the results were negative. Interlocking nail fixation is not a good solution for such a fracture. Okay, here you can see the tibial bone. So, okay, here you can see, a really huge quantities of plates, and I will start since the beginning. DCP, it means dynamic compression plate. Okay, different thickness, 4.5 or 5.5, different screws. And why people started to find or to create the new plates? Because dynamic compression plates, if you will apply them to the bone, to the surface of the bone, they will compromise the blood circulation within periosteum, and it will be really difficult to observe, the process of healing. Sometimes you have to wait, few months to get some visible sign. And the next generation was LCDCP. It means low contact dynamic compression plates. So the plates were modified, and for example, here you can see the bone surface of the plate. So it's not completely flat. So the plate will touch the bone in a much smaller area. So the periosteum is not so compromised like by normal dynamic compression plate. But in quite many cases, we observed loosening of the implants. Okay, surgery, 2-3 hours, and after 2 weeks, we can see that some of screws are already, displaced due to the problems, due to osteolysis, due to really huge forces working on the plate. And you have to imagine that modulus of elasticity of the plate, metal plate, is approximately 200 gigapascal, but the bone, it's just, to make it simple, close to 20. So we have huge difference in elasticity. That's why, the metal plates are not a good solution. And here, LCP means locking compression plate. So here is the place where you will insert the screw. Because in normal plate, DCP or LCDCP, there is no thread here. But in LCP, locking compression plate, screw has, the thread here, and after insertion, all the screw, you will create, one stable fixation. So it solved the problem, but only in some of cases. Normally, to make a good stabilization of the fractured third metacarpal bone in adult horses, let's say 500 kg, you need to use 2 plates, one on dorsal or the other one on the dorsolateral, 2 plates. It means that you will use 30 screws or even more, and after that it will be quite difficult to close the wounds. So some of the scientists, they started to work and they invented the equimetacarpal DCP plate. So here you can see, and they proved that such a plate can be sufficient, they can provide good stabilization. But until now, I couldn't find any publication that that plate was used successfully in the treatment for third metacarpal bone. Okay, after that started to modify this plate, so they just, removed approximately 1 millimeter of metal from entire bone contact. After that, in some of cases, they observe loosening of the implants. That's why it was necessary to make modification of the screws. So tapered screw are much better than the normal cortical screw, because here you will get a really, really good fixation. Okay, here are the results. Here are, the characteristic of the plate, but maybe it's not so important for you. But try to imagine. Here is the fracture. Not complete fracture, but closed fracture. So it was, a good candidate to do the surgery. So here are the authors, and, they published the results using 2 plates, more than 20 screws, and the time of surgery, it's depends. If there will be 2 teams, one of them will work with inserting the screws, somebody will close. You need to have proper equipment, good drilling machine, and good, equipment to do surgery quite quickly, because if the duration of surgery will be 4 hours instead of 2 hours, the risk of infection will be much higher. Of course, if the duration of surgery will be too long, you can expect the problems with recovery. So, and look, after that, after some time, usually it will take few months, 6, 7, 8 months, okay, probably we can remove 1 plate at the beginning, because you have to remember, if you remove all screws, the bone will be very, very weak. So there will be the risk of getting fracture once again. So it's quite important to remove 1 plate, after some time the second one. And usually 2 months after removing the implants, all the holes will disappear. This is, the bone, and they are able to fill all the holes. So as I mentioned, here about the problems which you can face doing the surgery with doing the osteosynthesis with plates. So first of all, duration of surgery, infection, and you have to remember that we cannot apply the plates and implants for open infected fractures, because it will be collapse. The other problem, too many implants, and this is a nice sentence. Fixation is too stiff. Fixation should be elastic. I remember my first course, I think it was 2000 in Davos in Switzerland, and at the end of the session there was the lecture presented by one guy working for AO Foundation, and he stated that fracture fixation must be elastic. And I was really happy, because I opened the Polish book, which was written by, the Polish surgeons, human doctors. They presented new system. It was called Zespol. It means Polish fixation. And in the summary, it was written, fixation must be elastic. And I showed it to Professor Auer. Professor Auer, he was a director of the course. He looked at the book. Where did you found? In Poland. So the book was written in 1978. So that's why I was really, really happy that in Poland we have also, you know, people who are able to solve some problems. Plates applied at the bone surface compromise the blood circulation in the bone and affect the callus formation. And for example, here, the example, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks old, pure Arabian, complete fracture of the radius. And horse or the foal was treated by applying 2 plates. Okay, here we can see the date. It was the end of June, and here we have end of July. After 1 month, can you see some callus formation? Sorry for asking you, it's a question to myself. I'm not able to see anything. If I will find the other presentation, I will show you the results after 2 months. The fracture which was treated by external stabilizer. Okay, in Poland, mainly for human medicine, in some of places, Ilizarov method is quite popular. Okay, in Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, still quite commonly used method. In 1995, my boss sent me to the course for, you know, human doctors, and I had the chance to train how to apply the Ilizarov system and so on. I was allowed, you know, to enter the surgery theater, and we were able to do some things, to do some job. And okay, probably wearing such device, it's not so nice, yeah? If you will use 2 plates, you can put your trousers and you can go. Nobody will see that. But in some of cases, such methods can be good solution. And here you can see some trials, and you know, scientists proved that Ilizarov system is not strong enough for horses, for using them for third metacarpal bones. But in some of them, other cases, it can be used mainly for small animals. Okay, transfixation pin cast. So, for example, here you can see this is the pictures presented by Dr. Rossignol, French guy, really smart one. He's able to do many difficult things. And transfixation pin cast means that you will, for example, put 2 nails here, and after that you will cover by fiberglass bandage. Here you can see the Polish system. This is not Zespol, but Polfix, the other system. And you can see that the plate is far away from the bone. It means that fixation can be elastic. Okay, so here you can see the Polish methods for fixation, the other one, Dynastab, and here is the main author, Professor Ramotowski, who published the book. This is the Polish version about, you know, using the external fixators for some of fracture. We have to remember that there doesn't exist one method for all of them. We need to choose proper method for proper fracture. Okay, in veterinary practice, there is so far no typical stabilizer which is designed for the treatment of diaphyseal fracture of the third metacarpal bone. That's why I decided to, together with some of the people from Polytechnical School, author of that construction, he died already a few years ago, but he was able to prepare, such stabilizer. Okay, he just makes some drawings, and after that I asked some guys just to do such construction. So as you can see here, we have 3 metal rods, and they are 8 millimeters diameter, 2 horseshoe which stabilize 3 roots, and after that, here is the really important, part. There is the special arm and the fixator for implants. The most important advantage of this system is that we can make the regulation in 3 planes, to the left, to the right. So this is really important. And the construction, this construction was, typical for third metacarpal treatment, because the metacarpal region is very, very specific. Do you have somebody who works with horses? No. Okay. Because the metacarpal region, you can put some implants on dorsal surface. From the palmar aspect, we have tendons, ligaments, and many, many other important fractures. So here you can see, we are not allowed to put anything here. So only from dorsolateral and dorsomedial. So here is the place to insert the implants. That's why finally we have such a shape. Okay. And I decided to do the study, just to perform some biomechanical investigation. I just, collected some bones from the slaughterhouse, and after that, fixation of the bone with such system, and we perform some test. Okay, here are some data. Maybe it's not so important. Preliminary study, osteometry, radiological assessment, and densitometry, because necessary to publish sometimes something. So it was a good time to get some data like densitometry. Okay, the main study, so the stage 1, it was performed compression test and 3-point bending test for non-fractured bone. We would like to know what kind of forces we can register before getting the fracture. The stage 2, the same story, compression test and 3-point bending test for bones which were fixated by stabilizer. Okay, here are some data, because anatomical one, because one guy who was involved in the project, he worked in the anatomy department, so it was his job. Let's miss it. And here also quite important densitometry. Here you can see the aluminum wedge, so it was 10 step. So in this way we can get different pattern, and for example you can find the same density of the bone like the first or second or the other step of the aluminum wedge, so it was possible to calculate the density of the bone. Okay, and here you can see the intact bone and 3-point bending test. So here are some data about machine, about the speed. This is really important, if you will use too high speed, you will get some false results. And on the other hand, you don't want to spend, 1 week performing just one test. So it was necessary to find the proper speed. Usually in the literature, scientists, they will use 2 millimeters per 1 minute. And also it was quite important to know the distance between span. So it was 150 millimeters. Okay, here is the compression test. It was much easier to put the bone upside down. So here is the proximal part, here is the distal part. And here you can see the fixator, which was already applied to the bone. And after applying the fixator, the bone was cut by oscillating. So I know that it looks quite complicated. Yeah, it's necessary to control everything, and it's not easy, you know, to put all the implants. But we have to remember that this is the method which can be used for really complicated cases. Okay, here are the data, how many bones were used, and here is the, you know, the result. Okay, for the intact bone, we reached very, very high value for the compression test. So the same story here. So we decided, you know, to stop the test in some moment. And now compression test for 6 right bones. And we realized that the fixation is very, very stiff, because look, we reached 25 kilonewtons and we decided to stop the test because it's not possible to get such value, you know, in normal conditions. So in this configuration, the stabilization was really good. Okay, 3-point bending test is a different story, and there were 3 variants, and as you can see, we used 4 or 5 implants, and 5 implants, they were used in different configurations. So here, 4 implants, so 4 in one piece of bone and 4 in the other. Here is the variant 2 and variant 3, and it's quite important, detail that all the implants, apex implant, they were inserted obliquely, not perpendicular to the bone. In this way, we can get, you know, better values. Okay, the fixator was prepared before, so it's okay. We need just 3-4 minutes to prepare it. Okay. Here the tools which you will need, the drilling machine. And you know, I was able to buy all those things because in 2010 I applied for the grant, government grant, and luckily, you know what happened? It was my first application. And I was given nearly 100,000 euro. Yeah, so it was a good chance, you know, to buy some equipment and so on. Because when I came back from Switzerland from the courses, it was my dream to buy, you know, the newest version, the top level of drilling machine. It cost a lot, but at least I have in the clinic. Okay, here are, you know, osteometry. Maybe it's not so important for you. For us, the most important are the mean value and maximum force which was registered. The mean value was nearly 18.5 kilo newtons, and for compression really high. Okay, variant first. So look, the mean value only 2.78, variant second 3.22, third variant 2.7. So it means that okay, compression is not important because you can see that the value which we achieved are really high. Okay, in the results you can see that the variant 2 is the best one. Okay, and after the test, it was necessary to make the assessment of the, all the structure, bones and parts of the stabilizers. So in some of them, we observed quite many, deformation, but for example, during compression test, no defects were observed either within the bone or the stabilizer. During 3-point bending test, no failures within the bone in any case, but we observed damages to the components of stabilizers and implants. Okay, and for example, after the 3-point bending test, we observed some damages due to, these clips, so it was necessary to modify them. And here you can see the new version and the new model was okay. In variant 1, we observed some plastic deformation of implant placed near the fracture line. In variant 2, quite similar. In variant 3, bending of the implant mounted on the central rod placed farther away from fracture line. And we observe some elastic deformation of the main root. This is quite good, detail, because if we will have the plastic deformation, this is the problem. But if we will have elastic, it means that during weight bearing, the forces can be distributed to different parts of the stabilizer. Okay, and it was quite important, just to avoid some, deformation of the implants. It was quite important to put the clips for fixation of the implant quite close to the bone, because in this way the arm will be much shorter, so the forces working on the bone and on the implants will be much lower. As I mentioned before, we used only this style, 10 style. It means that all the implants were inserted obliquely. The people working at the Polytechnical School, they thought that it's much better method. Now they are working, they are doing some finite element analysis, and they proved that such a system is a good solution. One of them presented last year in Porto at the Congress the results of that research. Okay. And of course, there is a question if the forces which we reach is enough to recover after the surgery or not. And of course, we can find some, calculation on the literature. And, for example, here you can see that load on equine forelimb at walk, it's approximately 346 kg. Of course, standing up from the recovery from anesthesia is a different story. Somebody saw the horse who is trying to stand up after general anesthesia? No. Yeah? So most of them, immediately they will feel that the level of isoflurane is getting lower. Okay, I would like to get up. And it's a really dangerous moment, so the forces working at that moment can be really high. So just here is a very simple calculation. Average horse 500 kg. Yeah, if 60% of body weight falls on the thoracic limbs, it gives us 300. So if 300 will be applied on one limb, it gives us the value 2.74. So in our research, we got more than 3. I know it's quite close, And we perform only, you know, static examination. Of course, there is a question, it will be enough during, you know, because horse after that has to walk somehow. So this is a different story. But as I mentioned at the beginning, that, you know, the plates which can be used only for closed fracture, we cannot use them for open fracture. And such fixation usually is too stiff. So if you will use external stabilizer, of course, the fixation is not good enough, but you can observe the callus formation very, very quickly. Remember, elasticity of the fixation is positive for bone healing. And here you can find some advantages of our external stabilizer. I know it looks quite complicated, but if you will train, you will play like children with some blocks, you can get some experience. So you can do the fixation quite quickly. And remember, if you would like to remove the fixator, usually you don't need any anesthesia, only some sedation, it's enough. After that, I will show you two cases, maybe not third metacarpal bones, but the other. Here another advantage, ability to adjust the flexibility of the fixation by varying the distance of the stabilizer from the bone. It means that if the stabilizer will be close to the bone, the fixation is stronger. If we'll make the bigger distance, it will be more elastic. And we have also good access to the surgical site and wound K. Okay, conclusions. The registered forces during the test may be sufficient to cope with the loads that may occur during the walking of a horse after surgery. After minor modification can be used in the treatment of fractures of other bones. So I just did such a job. Individual elements of the stabilizer can be used in the treatment of selected fractures in horses. And our stabilizer is mainly dedicated for the treatment of open or infected fractures when other methods like plate osteosynthesis cannot be used. Until now, I don't have any cases of third metacarpal bone. Okay, at that time, we have in Poland 5 or 6 private clinics, and if they will get, you know, the case with fracture, okay, they will keep the horse, okay, we are able to do it. It's quite difficult to get the case. But okay, here you can see the X-ray, lateral view, dorsopalmar view. 4 months, pure Arabian horse. The horse belonged to Prince Khaled bin Sultan. I used to work for him for a few years. And after some time, he decided to open the Polish division close to Warsaw. And the guy responsible for stables called to me, Bernard, we have emergency. What happened? Probably we have the fracture. So 1 hour later, I was in the stable. Foal was laying on the floor. So I succeeded to put the bandage, fiberglass bandage, long one, the X-ray, and I decided to bring the horse to the clinic. And normally, I should apply the plates and so on. Why I decided to put... First of all, okay, I could get the plates 2-3 days later. This is the one problem. And I really wanted to, you know, to use my stabilizer just to prove that it works. Okay, so maybe cosmetically it doesn't look so nice, because as the first step, I applied here some 3 neutral screws It was my mistake because I put 3 screws parallel. I should put them obliquely, because here you can see that the screws don't provide, the good stabilization. But I used only, one root, and 1, 2, 3, there were 4 implants. But I got the infection after, I think, 3 weeks. Yeah, this is the biggest disadvantage of the external stabilization. Ascending infection. If you will get the infection, okay, I remove just 1 implant. Because if you will get the infection, if you used 2 plates, you are lost. You have to remove everything. And look what happened. I removed just 1 of them. And after 1 month, I also removed the fiberglass bandage, because after the surgery, I applied the long fiberglass bandage, and I had to change every 1 week. Okay, here, 3 months after the surgery. I know there's still big mess, yeah, but we have to remember that bone has unique, is able to change, the shape and rebuild. Osteoblasts, they will work continuously. So in young horses, we can get really, really good result. So here we have 3 months, yeah? Okay, here the horse is already in the stable. So after 1 month, I decided to discharge the horse to the stable, and I changed the bandages just on the standing. Remember, it's a pure Arabian foal, completely crazy one. So it was possible to wash everything. I could increase the distance between the leg and the metal root. Just you will need 1 key release, and you can change the distance. Because remember, the callus formation, it was really huge one. So, okay, after that bandage, only soft. 3 months after the surgery, I removed all implants. Maybe not all. I decided to leave the screws, because to remove the screw, I need the general surgery, so I decided to leave them. And I also left, the clips, because I didn't want to sedate him so heavily just to remove 10 clips. And he's wearing them until today. Yeah, I think it's not the problem. So here is the some X-ray taken 4 months after. Yeah, no, not so bad. In my opinion, it's not so bad. Okay, and the biggest problem, it was really difficult for us to provide the control exercise. So, for example, during the first months, baby stayed together with mother in 1 big box. After 1 month, we decided to enlarge the size of the box. We just removed 1 wall, and they had 2 boxes. After that, we started to walk. And 4 months after the surgery, we decided to allow him, to walk on the riding arena. Okay, there were some people, and we decided to give them 10 meters for 20 meters. And look, look what happened 4 months after the surgery. I was so afraid that he will fracture again. Yeah. Yeah. Full gallop. Okay, so 7 months after the surgery, we decided to allow him to join the group. And it was another nervous moment for us. Yeah. Yeah, he spent so many months in the stable. So the age of the horse is a little bit more than 1 year because he was 4 months plus 7, okay, 11. And they kept the horse as a racing horse. Okay, so when he was 2.5 years old, we sent them back to the racing track. Okay, here you can see. And after a few months, they were not happy because he was not able to reach the speed like the other horses. What kind of explanation we can find? Maybe he is not a good candidate for being a sport horse or being a champion, yeah? Or maybe there are some problems connected with surgery, I don't know. But we found the other solution, they sold the horse and now he works as an endurance horse. And at that time, you know, he was 5 years old and he won the distance, I think 80 kilometers. So, another 2 cases, okay, head, yeah? 2 cases, 2 fractures of the mandible. Quite complicated fracture because this one on the left one is the 8 years old male jumping horse, approximately 500 kg or even more. And the horse got fractured after, you know, falling down after taking the obstacle. And owner called to me 10 days after the accident, yeah, and he told to me, doctor, I have one male, she doesn't want to eat. Could you check what's going on? And I started to collect some information, you know, to get some data from the history. So he told to me, we had an accident. Yeah, so if you look at the head, there was a huge enlargement. When I touched, I suspected the fracture. Here you can see, you know, the complete fracture at the level of 0.8 tooth, first molar. So I advised, let's do the surgery. So the surgery was performed 2 days later. And here you can see the other horse, 6 years old gelding pony, which was kicked by the other horse. And here we can see quite complicated fracture because here is the transverse fracture of the body of the mandible, and here you can see also the fracture of the tooth. So 2 different cases, because here we suspected that maybe the tooth is broken, but during the surgery I decided to leave the tooth in the first case. I just make the reposition, and after that I applied this stabilizer. This is just the part of the stabilizer which I presented for first metacarpal bone. And this is quite important to put the implants in this fashion. 2 implants in one piece of bone and second, and 2 in the second one. Okay, here you can see that instead of APEC implants, I used normal cortical screw because I was not ready for that. I already, orders the implant they sent to me next week, so I put only the normal screw. Here is the bandage. Yeah, the duration of surgery was 45 minutes. Yeah, under general anesthesia, of course, because it was necessary to make the reposition of the replaced tooth. And once again, we had some problems with infection. So after 2 weeks, I had to remove this one because it was close to fracture line, so it was infected. But finally, we got the union, and I removed all the implants 6 weeks after the surgery. 3 months after the surgery, owner informed me, "Thank you, doctor, we are on the competition." Yeah, 3 months after that. Okay, here's the second case. Nice pony, nice color, yeah, the gray one. And in this case, I used already, the proper implants, APEC implants. Insertion of the implants, it was the most difficult part because it's necessary to take the X-ray control. We shouldn't, injure the teeth and so on. So it was quite difficult. And I knew that probably it will be necessary to make the extraction of the tooth. But why I decided to leave the tooth? It's easier to get the good fixation. So I decided to remove the bone, the tooth, 6 or 7 months later. I have other presentation with all details, but I think I don't want to bother you. But I'm really happy that, I was able to help in quite complicated cases. This is really nice. Now he's, I think, nearly 15 years old, Falabella pony. He was born with flexural deformities. Yeah. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you very much.
If there are any questions, I will try to answer. I know that probably for you it's not so interesting.
Thank you very much, Professor Bernard Turek. Now, any questions?
Maybe.
Yeah.
My name is Alex. I would like to ask, since there's been some time going from these cases and the development of the system, have you been able to actually try it on the third metacarpal?
Yeah, I'm trying to find, but there are quite many problems. I don't want to tell all details that clinic doesn't work as it should works. Okay, I need to tell the truth because to prepare everything for the surgery, I'm the only alone. I have to control everything. What happened to me some years ago? I had the case with ulnar fracture. I prepared all the implants and so on, and I asked one anesthesiologist to do the anesthesia. But our head, he told, "No, you are not allowed to do the anesthesia." So the other people was involved, and we get some problems during recovery. Everything was ruptured and so on. And nowadays, I'm not so willing, to do some complicated surgery. But just a few months ago, they employed 3 young persons. And one of them, I hope, he will be, very willing. So maybe it will be easier. Yeah.
Maybe a second question. In terms of welfare during recovery, these external fixators as compared to the plates, obviously it's hard to have data, but do you feel that the recovery is more comfortable for the animal due to perhaps less implants and less compromise of circulation, or do you think it's the same?
It's a really good question, but we have to remember that also the fracture of the body of the mandible. Both of them were opened and infected fractures. So it would be my mistake if I would like to apply the plate. And imagine what happened, the first case, jumping horse. Can I sit or I should? The guy, groom working in the stable, he came to my office and, doctor, could you look at the horse? What happened? Horse is keeping the head all the time in the place, trying to eat. But I check everything is normal because horse was not able to eat anything for 10 days. She was able only to drink something. But when I make the reposition of the tooth and I provide the fixation, the fixation probably is not so good like using the plates. But for me, it was a really good proof that it works because I got the good result. I tried to publish those 2 cases, but they refused. I have a review, and they wrote to me, you are lying. Really, I printed just, the papers, and I have somewhere. We don't believe you. I don't know who was the reviewer, because sometimes this is the problem. They will send to the people who don't have, okay, they are free and, they will read something and they have no ideas. I remember it happened to me in Poland. I tried to publish one simple case about, it was the first case of osteosynthesis of proximal bone in pure Arabian horse. I sent for publication, they refused. I sent the second time, after some time, they refused. Finally, I sent the third time, and reviewer was the guy from gynecological department. It was a funny story because I met that professor some time ago. Doctor, I got your article for reviewing. I decided to publish without any correction. So sometimes this is the problem. So in all those mice cases, I think it was the only solution. Maybe the tibial fracture, it was closed fracture. Maybe it would be better to put the plates, but I'm not sure because it happened to me a few years ago. One horse, pure Arabian, beautiful mare, 6 or 7 years old, chestnut, with quite complicated fracture of P1. And I look at the picture and I decided to do the surgery. Normally, we should do the CT scan. But, okay, due to some problems, I was not allowed to do the examination. So I performed the surgery and it was my mistake because we got the infection and I had to euthanize 2 months after the surgery. And probably horse would be able to survive if I would apply only the fiberglass bandage or only transfixation pin. But I believed that I'm able to improve the situation. There were too many pieces of bone. And at that time, I performed quite big opening because nowadays there is a tendency just minimal invasive surgery, few small holes, and it was my mistake. And I will remember the case to the end of my life, really.
I think everyone has some of those.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you are expecting some more lectures.
No, I think
No?
at least for me, I'm not.
Because I have some, just few slides about the relieving device for complicated fractures of P1 and the results of the final element analysis was presented in Porto by the professor from Polytechnical School. And the results are quite promising. But as you know, the biggest problem of external stabilization is the infection. And after that osteolysis, usually 6-8 weeks, you know, we can keep the implants. After that, we have the problems.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for.
Não houver mais perguntas? Não? Pronto, então, muito obrigado a todos por assistirem aqui a esta sessão das Mini Talks. Nós agora terminamos, temos aqui um docinho que foi. Eu vou por aqui, para ver aqui o professor.
Yeah, it's very famous Polish
Typical
sweets.
candy from Poland.
Yeah, it's, you know, the place is called Nałęczów. It's the place where you can go for rehabilitation, you can enjoy the good climate and so on, and they produce really, really tasty. Normally I don't touch them because if I will open one bag, I will finish it.
São todos convidados a tirar antes de sair.
Obrigado. Obrigado a todos.
Thank you so much. Sorry for my English, but